God of light, we are yours. Help us in this season and in all our living to seek your light, to follow your ways, to live as followers of Jesus. Amen. The great controversy of New Year's time: when does the tree come down? Some are already on the curb. Our neighbor still has a 12-foot Christmas Santa Claus, and Lady Mary Crawley has the definitive answer. If you're a Downton Abbey fan, you know the voice. The tree stays up until Epiphany. You'll get used to how things are done here properly. In other things British, The Independent, which is a British news service, actually published an article this week that said, when is Twelfth Night? And when should you take down your Christmas tree? Well, I guess maybe the British people forgot how to count, but the 12th day of Christmas is January 5th, so 12th night was last night, and today is the day of Epiphany, which very rarely falls on a Sunday, and so usually we're just sort of nodding at it on the first Sunday of January. But this year it fell on Sunday, and it gives us our opportunity to bring out our star banner for one week of the year. And of course, our Christ candle is lit, even though the Advent candles have gone. And of course, the camels. Of course, again, I would like to say, brief commercial, if you'd like to stay after worship and help undo Christmas, you are most welcome. Epiphany refers back to those words from Isaiah that we heard about kings and nations coming to the light of God, and of course refers also to the story of the three wise men, which we also heard this morning. Epiphany is also older in terms of Christian celebrations than Christmas Day itself. It's an ancient observance and is known in some cultures as Three Kings Day, although remember, Matthew's gospel doesn't say anything about kings. That's sort of borrowed from the Isaiah. Matthew's gospel talks about these sort of astronomers, these wise people that were watching the skies for signs of important events. In Latin American cultures, it's called Dia de los Tres Reyes, Day of the Three Kings, and it's a big celebration. It outshines Christmas Day. When my friend Mariana was pastor of a Spanish-speaking congregation in Albany, that congregation would invite folks from all the neighboring churches, anybody who wanted to come, to whatever church basement they were meeting in for Tres Reyes, and there would be music and food and food and food. And every child, whether a member of that congregation or a visitor from the wealthiest suburb, would receive gifts from the three kings. It was a testimony to the generosity of that people and the people who supported them. Epiphany, the ongoing meaning of the birth of Jesus in the world and to the world. And we're reminded in Matthew's gospel that it wasn't all sleep in heavenly peace. Just when, we're kind of relaxing into how silently, Matthew reminds us that all of this didn't take place in some refuge from the political world. The first stories of Jesus' life in this gospel bring his family directly into the path of a corrupt and cruel power. Specifically, Herod, king of the Jews, really operative of the Roman Empire, who ruled from, as United Methodists have recently been saying, a heart of war. In this dialogue about the United Methodist denomination, the Commission on the Way Forward read together and had lots of other folks reading a book that had us asking ourselves, do we approach others from a heart of peace or a heart of war? And it's safe to say that Herod's, according to the testimony we're given, is a heart of war. And not only that, of fear. And the cruelty comes from the fear. And we're actually told Herod heard, King of the Jews, and was afraid, and brought Jerusalem along with him in his fear. And it's really this story of intrigue where initially these wise ones are brought in to consult with Herod, are brought in almost as operatives in his scheme. You know, first he asked the priests and the scribes, where's it going to happen, according to the scriptures? And then he asked the Magi, when did it happen? Go and find out where he is so that I can go too. So you have this story working on a couple levels, where on one level, the Magi are a symbol, a sign of the cultures of the world, the people recognizing the importance of the birth of Christ. Sometimes they're even given names and places of origin. That's legend, it's not in the gospel. But they do stand for the peoples of the world. And then, on a more mundane level, they are people who get caught up in the machinery, who run into the world's realities, who are asked to play their part. And interestingly, the last verse in this reading this morning might be the most evocative when we're told that they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, and they went home by another way. There's a James Taylor song that starts from that line. But it's, I think, this moment of courage when they've been changed by what and whom they've seen, and they choose not to be pawns of this powerful one anymore. The powerful one, Herod, keeps doing what he does, and in fact, his fear drives him even further. If you read just a little further in your Gospel of Matthew, we're told that his plan, so that he won't be threatened by this tiny child, is to just kill all the male children under the age of 2, which of course reminds us right away of what Pharaoh did, that Moses narrowly escaped. And it reminds us that Jesus' family was caught up in this and really became refugees, fleeing to Egypt in their earliest time as a family. It's kind of like all the Christmas carols suddenly turn to a minor key as the realities of this conflicted world rush in. Lest we think that ours is the worst time ever, you know, there were a lot of problems. And then, as now, as any other place you might read in history, power behaves the way power behaves. And the thing is that you might find a little bit unsatisfying that Matthew's gospel, because it tells of these realities, really says that when the light appears in the darkness, the stubborn darkness doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just go away. And in fact, sometimes darkness fights even harder for its turf when it is threatened by light. And it's almost as if Matthew wanted Christians, the early church, to know that. It's also, you know, the plot of every Star Wars movie. Harry Potter, superhero, you name it. What happens when the force, the light, Harry, appears? Darkness fights back. It does not give up easily. And so, it's simple, but not simple. The light shines in the darkness, and though we continue to struggle with darkness, the light is not overcome. Though the world grinds on, and fear continues to try to call the shots, the world is changed by the birth of the Christ. God has moved into the neighborhood, and this light cannot be overpowered. As Archbishop Tutu once said, looking out at the foot soldiers of apartheid, yes, you are powerful, and you have already lost. So you might as well join the light. He was already seeing the world that God intends, the world illuminated, transformed by the light. Tutu was guided by the star. Another bishop, a little closer to home, our retired Bishop William Boyd Grove, who served our area in the 90s, posted a reflection for Epiphany this week. And he was reflecting on not only the state of the world, but the state of Christian faith, and really Christian leaders who lead from fear and call it faith. And he said, now, more than ever, we need to follow the star. We need to discern the difference between fear and love. The light shines in the darkness. The darkness does not overcome it. May we follow that light. Amen.